Why can't I have
Yeah, what's up, everybody? I just asked Marisa a question, and then I just hit record and cut her off. This is it. Episode 8. First repeat.
I thought you weren't going to count episodes.
I am. I'm going to count them. Okay. That way, for reference point in the future, hey, go check out episode 8, where I teach Marisa a thing or two about life. So,
by creating challenge?
This is it right here. Repeat. You just got home. Last night we were up. Basically what I thought was this. You're going to come home from this trip. I haven't seen Marisa really all week. We'll record a podcast on Friday. Going over everything, but...
We've barely spoken. This is our first time speaking.
No, last night.
Yeah.
Ruined all of our content for today. So this is what we have today, man. Episode 8, we're talking about stuff that I was doing while you were away.
You have a list?
I have a few items.
You have a list.
All right. But first we have to talk about social events.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, remember, these past couple of weeks, we've been hosting these little gatherings, and they've been getting heavy.
We've been doing it since August, actually.
Well, we're doing it more consistently. They're getting deep.
Yeah, I think that's what happens when you bring people together, right?
There are people crying.
You create a safe space.
I almost cried last week.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah. It was wild.
Mm.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So this is what's going on. We're having these little gatherings, and we're finding out that there's a lot of people. It doesn't matter if they're like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, 70, 100. You know, everybody's...
We haven't met anybody 100.
How about teens, right? Everybody has issues of some sort, right? And I don't mean issues as if it's something negative. It just means that they have some sort of health problem going on. Their foot hurts. Their back hurts. Their digestive system's out of whack.
Emotional trauma.
Emotional stuff, right? We talked in that gathering specifically about what Darren told me when he learned from a mentor, right? The 3 T's, right? You have your thoughts, right? If you have these negative thoughts over and over again, that could feed in. It could kickstart this like little stress wheel that just keeps going and going and going and never stops.
Which happens, which translates physiologically, physically in the body.
Like me, I'm freaking out about something for a good month or two that I have going on health-wise. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, what am I doing? I am negatively affecting my sleep because I'm thinking about this. I'm constantly thinking about this throughout the course of the day. And I know that that's going to probably lower my immune system strength and resiliency by being concerned about stuff, right? So that is one way that your thoughts could negatively affect your day-to-day living.
I mean, yeah. I did this exercise, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. It was a meditation exercise. And it started with... obviously close your eyes, regulate your breathing, deep breathing. But then it was think of somebody who doesn't bring you peace. It was basically connecting that mental, physical, spiritual component and how they affect each other. So it ended up being a positive meditation, but it started with think of somebody that maybe you feel uncomfortable around, maybe is painful to be around. And I immediately physically felt it in my body. And then the next step was think of somebody who brings you joy. And it was basically paying it, the whole exercise was for the purpose of paying attention to how certain energies and certain thoughts and even people impact how you physically feel. So when you tell yourself, when you're stressing out about something physically, you're manifesting it as well.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily that one thing will happen. If you're freaking out about a certain health condition, doesn't mean that's going to happen, but you're still having...
It can, though.
It can,
because you're creating the stress cycle.
Can,
yeah, 100% it can.
I said it can, so I did agree. All right? And I guess we can go that way with it.
First.
So that was thoughts, right? And then the other T... Well, there's 2 other T's, I guess. Trauma and toxins. The trauma part of things, I just saw a lady that,
maybe I don't
somebody showed me to check this lady out in terms of working with middle schoolers, right? And she basically just put up something that I probably talked about with Wes before. I probably shared it in the last episode that I did by myself, which, honestly, I put a headline up there that says, "Today I have no friends," and a bunch of people watch it for some reason. And, the YouTube clips, getting a lot of views on YouTube, and I'm like, were people just wondering, were they just checking in on me or not? But anyway, that was a good episode. Check it out. It's a recap of my first 5 guests. But anyway, so your trauma, right? It happens to you. But it doesn't stop you from healing, right? You cannot let the trauma stop you from healing.
Oh, trauma
right?
can absolutely stop you from healing. I mean, so this is actually a perfect example, a little bit of a dive into where I was. But I was at a leadership conference in Vegas, and our CEO of the company we're partnered with got up and like laid his soul on a stage basically. But he was talking about how he's allowed his whole life to be so focused on, quote, success. What does that mean? You know, and that he was hiding his trauma behind work, and that he became a workaholic, and he lost his connection to himself, to humanity, and
he said
he's
he
feeling
acted
that
out,
now.
right? He said he acted out, might not have been
Yeah,
kind to everybody.
yeah.
He maybe, this week too, tying in this health class thing that I did this week, and success was one of these core values. So we had 60, I printed out 60 topics, 60 words basically, anything from success to resiliency to one that I like personally was meaningful work, right? So that one stuck out in my mind because that was one that I circled and talked to the kids about. But it was success, right? And what does success look like? For this man, it was maybe it was more financial side of things, as opposed to having successful relationships, having a successful whatever it may be,
as opposed to
right?
being happy. I mean, that's what he said.
Yeah.
He no longer looks at success the same way.
Right.
He's on a healing journey. I mean, he invited us onto it, which was incredible.
So I guess success, by definition, can and will change over the decades.
Well, success is different for every single human being. Right.
That's what I'm getting at too.
Yeah. And fulfilling it, I mean, looks different. And even maybe it is financial for some people, but as long as the other pieces of their life are balanced and fluid and happy and joy is there, then maybe that's what it looks like for them. But if you only have one piece of the puzzle, I think no matter, if you don't have joy and connection to people, I don't think that you can have success no matter how much money you have.
Probably true.
Yeah. But one of the things he talked about was
I got no rebuttal.
There's a book called The Body Keeps Score. It's a really fantastic book, and it's about how the body keeps score of you hold on to things. You hold on to your trauma. You hold on to toxic exposure, which isn't just chemicals. Toxic exposure could be somebody's energy. It could be that trauma someone experienced, whether it's emotional or physical even. Right? People have physical trauma. They're in accidents or...
Well, that was the third. I mean, the trauma and the toxins are the other two T's if we were talking about all of them. And so the trauma side of things is the things happen, right? Wes was just like, you cannot let what happened in the past cannot define your future, basically. If you're on this path to heal and to move forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
You cannot let what has happened to you previously, stop you or define your future. Right? I mean, you can come to grips with what happened to you and then kind of move forward.
It's a choice, yeah. Amy and I had, if you're watching this, we had a long conversation via Instagram chat the other day about, there's a quote that I used to embrace. It's, oh God, I'm gonna screw the quote up, but it's basically behind every strong woman. I
was gonna make my joke.
Don't make your joke.
Is a man.
Not a strong
woman. I'm just kidding.
Definitely not. Behind every strong woman is a circumstance in which she had no choice. I think that's the quote. And I used to embrace that quote for a while. And then I realized, fuck that. Oh, sorry. Don't shake your head at me. But, F that. Because behind every strong woman is a woman that made a choice. Everything, you do have a choice. There are people that might choose to not heal their trauma. It's uncomfortable.
I'm going to tell you about, I don't even know if did I share the literacy and prison stuff with you yet?
Yes, we talked about it. Yes, lots.
How many times? A lot?
Lots of times.
Anyway, we're going to talk about it again.
And I've heard you talk to other people about it multiple times.
I told Addison, who's not watching, I was filling him on it this morning at a coffee shop. I would tell anybody that has an ear, because I'm trying to make a connection, and if anybody that does listen to this can help me sort this out. Back in the day, Plato, Socrates, they had their gymnasiums, right? The gymnasium was a place where they trained their body physically and also mentally. They had these open debates, discussions, dialogues, speeches. They read. They physically trained their body, right? In my mind, I'm like, I want to create that somehow at the barn. And then the more that I read about things, right, it's like, I have to remember the percentages. 60% of inmates, right, they cannot read beyond, it depends on, I saw anywhere between a 4th grade or 6th grade level, right? Long story short, 60% of inmates are technically, basically illiterate, right, by adult standards. They're at a 4th or 6th grade level. So So those people then, basically that's one stat. The second stat is 70% of inmates reoffend in their first 5 years after leaving prison, right? So one prison decided we're going to put in a literacy program. And what they found is that number went from 70% that would reoffend, it went down to 16%.
Sounds like in the teens.
There was a man on there who openly admitted he did his crime, right? He did the crime. He had 2 felonies. And at the time in the 90s, you got 2 felonies. He was serving like a 25 to 50-year sentence. And he went to prison and he looked around. He spent his whole life in like the system, so to speak, always legally in trouble. They thought he had some sort of, they put him into basically a psych ward.
Like a mental disability.
They basically told his mom, your son's going to go to juvie or he's going to go to the psych ward. She chose the psych ward. And that put him, you want to talk about trauma, listen to this story, man. I'm not going to go into that. But what happened was he went to prison, he looked around. And what did he do? He saw people doing good and he saw people doing bad. And he just said to himself, I just one time in my life, I'm going to try to do good. I'm going to try to be good. I'm going to try to follow what these people are doing. And what those people were doing was they were educating themselves. They were using what they've learned to then try to help other inmates, right? And he ended up staying on that path. And he is now a lawyer. He's got multiple degrees and he is fighting for all the injustices that are going on in the prison system. His 2 felonies that he did commit, he openly admitted it, should not have given him that sentence that he served. He was in there longer than people that committed murder. And
That's crazy.
He decided that that's what his work's going to be. He's going to work to, find those cases, find those people that may be wrongfully in prison or got, a sentence that is a little bit exceeds what they should have. So in that lies the choice. He made that choice, right?
Choice.
But then you start backtracking, right? How does one end up in prison? How did it take me to be an adult to come to this realization? He's like, I've been in the system, so to speak, for all of these years. Why is nobody doing this for me? Or not doing it for me, but why is nobody helping me?
It's lack of exposure.
Why is nobody teaching? Why is nobody telling me the importance of reading? Why am I at this level? Year after year, he never improved past a certain level. And he had to fill out a job application. He didn't even know what a PDF was. They wanted him to upload a PDF. He's like, how am I? He's like, I had to ask people. And as an inmate, as a former con, if you can't read, do you think you feel good about yourself? Your whole life, you're a little bit behind in school, maybe. Then you go to get a job and they're asking you all this stuff. And he's like, I didn't know what it was. So if he didn't seek out help, he wouldn't have got the job. And then if you don't have a job, what are you going to do then? You think you're feeling your self-esteem, your self-efficacy, is it there? You're going to find yourself probably reoffending.
I want to touch on something there, though. I mean, that's like, he's the model example of the human spirit and perseverance, right? And at the end of the day, I think we live in a culture where it's like frowned upon to ask for help, but it's one of like the most basic human needs is to actually lean on others and for people to come together to have mentorship. And I think that's what it comes down to is he persevered, he made a choice. And because he knew he didn't want to be where he was, he looked around at what do I need to do? Who are the people already doing where I want to go?
That's the whole thing that I'm trying to solve, especially with this podcast, is what makes that decision happen. I feel like some people have this inner thing, and I talked about this previously.
I agree with that.
I always felt that there was a right and a wrong thing, and if I didn't always choose the right thing, though. And when I didn't choose the right thing, I knew that. And then I would kind of beat myself up down the line. That guy, I'm sure that wasn't the first time he thought about doing good or doing what's right. And I'm sure there was other inmates in there that wanted to make a life change. But why did he, what made him in that moment? Now, obviously, I don't even know if he would have that answer.
He didn't want to stay in his circumstance.
I think a lot of people don't. But it's like, what makes it just, what flips that switch? And that answer is never going to be found out, I don't think. But what made him stay on the path? What made him decide that in that moment, Because everybody's life experiences add up to kind of who you are today. And I guess at that point, he was just done with it,
It's not, I think it's just, it's an overcoming. I mean, it really comes down to perseverance and not wanting to stay where you are. And I think that, there's so many studies, even anthropologically, you look back that human nature we're meant to follow, right? A majority of the population and personalities, even going way back into different cultures and different centuries even, is it's not the majority that breaks out of that mold, right? The majority, it's the human nature to stay safe. It's a survival instinct. So everybody is fighting a survival instinct when they go against something they already know or have a community of, right? Because I mean, you and I, we talk about community being like the foundation of healing. I like truly believe that, and we're seeing that happen with events that we're having and people coming out, you know. So I think that it's very hard because when you step out of that, you're often stepping out alone, or it feels like you are, until you find someone in that next realm of space that's like willing to reach down and take you with, you know?
I guess if you grow up in a community, you know, they talked about it in this episode too. So if I am speaking out of touch here, it's because I'm just repeating what I think I remember. But if you're born into a single parent home, you're more likely to, basically all of this stuff affects your literacy. You know, if you're in a bad school system, if you get born in the wrong town, in the wrong city, to maybe you just have one parent, the other one left, all of these circumstances start to add up and they affect who that kid becomes. But if that's your environment and that's the world that you're living in, you might not be exposed to anything outside of those couple blocks that you live in. You know, I talked to a guy that grew up in Philly and he was like, man, he's like, I just knew the blocks, I just knew my walk to school and that was it. And some people got stuck in that and they stayed there and they didn't.
Most people do.
They don't get that education part too, where it's like, man, there's a bigger world out there. Maybe that's what happened with the reading program, you know, the literacy program. People started to understand human nature and they understand that there's something more out there, and then they sought it out. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's empowering, right? Being able to communicate effectively with the masses is an empowering thing to have. So it's a tool you're providing to somebody, but at the same time, I think we rely too much on education in a classroom setting. Like that's how, like when someone says the word education, most people's immediate thought is school. But really, I would argue that most education comes from life experience and exposure. You know? And so I don't know if you want me saying this on your podcast. Chris should probably vet the things I think before we come on here, but I think that education does a disservice to people. The school system education, just in the sense that it's one more thing of a specific mold. Like here is the mold in which we want you to become a part of and follow, and it's isolated. I mean, it's one of the things that I love about some of the programs, like the international, like baccalaureate programs and stuff for high schools. Like those kids are getting tons of like worldly cultural exposure. They have to, but that's not the norm, you know, like that's not the norm.
Who's doing those programs? Are those
Mostly
programs?
private.
Yeah, that's another thing too. That
It's access.
the environment that you're born into, you cannot choose like where you're born. You know, you cannot choose your family dynamic as a kid, and that makes it hard. I think, and it almost makes it hard to come out of that as, like, I think I probably mentioned it too, like police officer in Baltimore retires. I think it was Baltimore. Anyway, it's a big city. After 30 years on the job or whatever it was, he looked at the areas in the 50s, the high crime areas in the 50s, and then the high crime areas when he retired. And it was just like, what the heck did I do over the course of my career? Because we changed nothing. We changed nothing over these last 50 years. And that's hard to hear.
But change has to come from within. So you have to model and inspire and touch people's lives, right? I mean, we talk about that even like with coaching and teaching and anything. Really, it comes down to like human contact. Like one person can totally shift the trajectory of another person's life just by having shared their life or experience and challenges with them. You know, it's like when people share their stories. You know, everybody has baggage. I mean, like you started this whole conversation with that. Everybody's got something going on in their lives, you know, and no person's thing is any more than another person's. It's just a different walk. But when people share those burdens with other people, then the person they share with is like, oh my gosh, it's not just me. Like, and look at what you're doing, you know, like you're doing all these things still, even though you're carrying this baggage. Maybe I can too. I think that like the human connection piece and community is literally the most important piece.
Well, we met an individual that got some crazy news the night before, just health stuff. And this person felt that didn't know if their other half would handle the news well, kept it to themselves. Has a sibling experiencing a health concern, a serious concern, cancer, you know. They don't want to burden the mother with news about their potential similar diagnosis maybe, right? So this person was just holding it on. And honestly, all we provided, I think, was an ear and a space
A safe
for her to
space.
share. And it was like, this is the point where I almost cried because she just broke down because she had nowhere to go.
She had no one to share with
No
until
one
that
to
moment.
share. But at the end of that day there, it was this big release. And then I'm like, now, I think on the other end of this, maybe the healing and all that can begin, you know. It was like one of
100%.
these big things that kind of, and a bigger, I don't want to say explosive moment, emotional explosion, basically, I guess. I don't know how to word it. But anyway, it was a big moment for her. And it was like, it almost like she felt voiceless and just kind of provide a voice to the voiceless, let them share things, right? But if she didn't show up that day, it's like, would she still be holding on to that a week later now? And maybe. So that is
and
one
if
thing.
we weren't doing what we're doing, that space might not have been created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, you think about it too. It's like the connection to this person is kind of crazy. You made a friend in a networking group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So a networking group that you just kind of started deciding like, hey, I'm going to go to this group. You meet somebody.
Shelby dragged me along.
Right?
Yep.
And then from there, this person introduces us to somebody else. And then that person hosts people at their business. So we go to her chiropractic office. She's cool, right? I mean,
yeah, Dr. Claire's great.
Claire's amazing. She's funny.
She's experiencing her own shit.
She's a great host, I thought.
Yeah.
And
She's
but anyway, then that person brought people into our world then. And it's just these weird connections that I think I devalued over the course of, well, let's think here, I don't know, 20-ish years. Like, who needs to go? Who needs to socialize, you know? But there's some value there. There's some value.
It's
I'll
not.
give it to you.
Yeah. You'll give it to me. I mean, I don't necessarily like the word socialize because I think too many...
It's more authentic than just talking to somebody. It's like talking
It's connecting. It's building connections.
Yeah. It's not just saying, hey, how you doing
It's
today?
not like going out for the sake of going out for happy hour and having surface conversation with people.
I think there's a difference between like, hey, you know, how you doing? And then looking at them and saying, hey, how's it going?
And actually meaning it.
Yeah.
Actually meaning it is really the... I mean, I shared
then
that...
when I share you something, you're like, you know...
Yeah.
I sometimes double check, and I don't know why I do this. I'm like, yeah, you sure? Like, you know, I don't know. You know, you just talk to somebody, and then that's more than just being, hey, what's going on? And then just kind of walking by and doing whatever. I don't know. You know, there's two different ways. Same question presented in two ways.
I think a lot of people don't want to know because they're already hoarding their own burden. You know, so like we're like hoarding onto our own burden that we haven't shared with somebody, so we feel so much weight from it that we don't want to take on somebody else's because we're already carrying all of our own baggage. And when you give a piece of that up, like, one, it's healing for yourself. And then when you allow someone else to have that space to do that, like you grant them that space, it's healing for both of you.
Yeah, I don't know where I don't remember where I heard this, but it was like if you wanted to start feeling better, like help somebody.
Yeah.
And that, you know, if you don't want to help yourself, go help somebody else. Because that's going to eventually, it's going to do something for you that's going to get you moving in the right direction. At least feeling better in that moment. Lending a hand to somebody. So, I don't know where that's
Sharing the burden is the most important thing possible. And through that, you get to release it and actually invite in positivity. I mean, when you surround yourself with people with a positive mindset, it's such a different feeling. I mean, I was in a room full of maybe 200 people at this pro leadership conference. And it was like the most uplifting environment, even though there were a lot of people on stage sharing about their struggles. But it was like everybody was just like coming together to embrace that person and give them the space to share that. It's very positive. And so if you feel like you don't have that type of environment, I
talk about the
only share that
talk
it's
about
worth
the Debbie
seeking.
Downer.
Oh man.
Listen, it's just you don't have to go into super detail.
I don't want to. I'm not going to give that any more energy.
Good, because if there's 200 interactions and 199 of them are great, who cares about the one that's bad?
And here's the thing. I made the mistake by even giving it additional energy by sharing it with Chris.
Seriously.
It's the truth.
I don't want to tell you, like, who cares, but I was thinking, like, that's one person that's being kind of an a-hole. And I don't know. Sometimes when people are being ridiculous, I just am like, sometimes I'll be like, oh my God, can you believe it? And other times I'm just like, this person is...
It's the truth.
This person's done. You know, they're not even, their mind's not in it right now.
Well, that's the thing. They've got,
so-
and then it's honoring the fact that like something
Right now-
is going on with this person's life.
Yeah.
For them to
Could have
have
been a bad day.
right.
Could have been just they got terrible news
We all have a
before you
bad
went
day.
in there.
But we do have the choice, right? Like I just was honest with, I gave it energy I shouldn't have given it.
Absolutely.
You know, we have the choice to how we respond to it, and we can respond by not feeding more negative energy into something that's already negative, or by shifting, which I just did now.
But yeah, there's like we talked about in a different aspect, but I used coaching as an example, like coaching football. Somebody's dad, uncle, brother, whatever, played football at a high level. They want to tell you what they used to do. I talked to Steven about this, about strength and conditioning programs. He had a funny story where some kid that was in like 9th or 10th grade and was like, hey, not sure if you know this, but this is what Wake Forest is doing or something, and pulled up YouTube and was showing Steve.
Oh my gosh.
Steve's like, yeah, that's cool, but I haven't seen you lift anything yet today, so why don't you start working out? But you know, a dad will be like, hey, this is what we used to run this back in the day, you know, or just tell you how to coach, right? And eventually just like, all right, you could let this person totally disrupt your mood and get y'all fired up. You go complain to everybody else, or you just be like, all right, whatever. Or my answer is like, hey, man, there's jobs out there. You can coach.
Yeah.
Right?
Or volunteer.
You can't change. The gist of it was like, you can't change the environment that your kid is in by forcing those individuals, whether it's a teacher, an administration, a coach, a business owner, whatever. Somebody's messaging me like, hey, I want my kid to do this at your gym. And I'm like, well, there's 9 other kids working out, and we're not just going to be able to cater to that one individual, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, this is the environment that we're creating, and if you like it, you could stay. But if it's not that, you could go elsewhere.
Or,
there might be another environment.
Like you shared, you can volunteer, right? I mean, change comes from within. Like maybe they do have a positive idea, but if you're coming at it in that kind of approach, I think people just want to be heard. So like
that goes back to that meeting, I guess.
Definitely learn to just, even if it's maybe not something I'm going to shift, to just give someone the space to share it. Like people just want to feel heard, I think. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
And not everybody's in that growth mindset where they can acknowledge where they're coming from. Like you can acknowledge that their mindset is really probably more specific to their kid, where ideally, I mean, this isn't going to be the case for every coach, but ideally a coach is mindful of the whole program, right? But I think even in coaching people get short-sighted. You know, habits are created when you're not constantly growing, then you're standing still.
Yeah. Yeah, it is good to hear stuff, I guess, too, right? Because it doesn't mean that, you know, whatever, 19 out of 20 might not serve the program, but you never know. Somebody might have an idea.
Yeah.
Your neighbor, some guy you used to coach with back in the day, or who knows?
You might not always like who delivers the message, but it still might be a message that you're like later, maybe there's some gravity to that.
You gotta let it marinate a little bit sometimes.
Especially you.
I let things marinate. I'm a slow cooker.
Icky ears.
I'm a slow cook kind of guy. So we let things marinate in this brain of mine.
For a very long time. Very long time.
Decades, some might say.
maybe a lifetime.
Some might even say decades.
Some might say a lifetime.
Anyhow, we talked about, I'm going to go back. I didn't tell you about my health class this week.
No.
We're
probably not even making it through your list. I think it's funny.
Oh, we're there.
Oh, yeah.
Literacy, check. Social. We talked about social stuff, right? How important it is for me. I don't talk to people, all right? I started hanging out with Marisa's groups, and I realized I was missing a social component. My social bucket was not as filled as my physical bucket was. My mental bucket, maybe similar. What do you think is my lowest part? If we did the 4 buckets, spiritual, social, mental, and physical. So let's put a percentage on these things.
I'm gonna go
physical first.
Physical's your top one. It's like where it's
worst.
You have
50%?
You have the most control over that aspect.
Put a number on it.
Actually, you feel in most control over physical.
Put a number on it. Out of 100%, there's 4 buckets. They should be roughly.
So we have physical, emotional, spiritual, and social?
No, physical, mental, social, spiritual.
Physical, mental, social, spiritual.
Grade me. Should be around 25% each is my idea. Should be there.
I would put like 70 on physical.
70 on physical. And then what? Mental.
20.
Wow. So, social then? 9? Is that where you're going to put
What
it?
are you giving? You giving
Dude, there's only
spiritual
10
one?
points less. There's only 10 points less. 70 and 20? All right, go ahead. Finish it off. You're not leaving a lot of room here.
I know.
So you're telling me my buckets are out of whack?
I mean, you asked me.
You didn't even finish the exercise.
Because I don't know how to split social and yeah, maybe
Split it.
Maybe 9-1.
9-1. So my spiritual side of things are at a 1.
Maybe I'll give you a 65 on physical. Well,
Okay,
I'll up your social a little.
Wow, thanks. So that's at 14% now, and then anyway, 65, 20, 14%, and then 1 for spiritual. That's fine. So where are we going here with the buckets anyway? The social part of things. I was going to say that I feel pretty good about reconnecting with old friends, doing a podcast, having real conversations with people intelligently.
That's the part right there. You've always liked social. You are a social creature. I would argue that you talk to people more than I do.
It's got to be
but
something.
It has to
substance.
be right. It has to be something. And you were in the wrong circles, which is why you were antisocial.
No fluff for me.
Wrong people.
It's a no fluff zone.
I'm a no fluff zone too.
Might be the name of this podcast.
I mean, neither one of us does
didn't Bill O'Reilly have a
surface conversation.
Bill O'Reilly show back in the day. I thought he had a name that was like that. Like it wasn't hardball, but it was like, this is it. This is none of that soft stuff.
No fluff.
Coming at it straight. Anyway.
Well, I mean, that's probably I think where you were limited.
So we're building the social, spiritual then. 1%.
Yeah.
A lot of room for improvement, right?
That's one way to look at it. The fact that you even are thinking about spiritual, I think, is like massive improvement.
What do you mean?
What do you mean what I mean?
I'm here to serve the people. You know? Give the people what they want. Anyway, how do I improve it?
Just explore it. How do you improve anything by exploring it?
I'm asking you.
It's your journey. I can't tell you how to... Seriously.
Somebody hires you and asks for advice. That's what you're going to say to them? It's your journey?
I don't tell people what to do.
Give some ideas.
I ask questions. How do you feel spiritually connected? What makes you feel spiritually connected?
I don't know how to define it at the moment.
So then I'd start there. What does it even mean to you to be spiritually connected?
What?
I answered your question. Let's see what you got here.
I guarantee you can't answer that.
What does it mean?
Spiritually connected.
Yeah.
Why did you just define it as something greater than
yourself? Because you're still distancing yourself from it by saying
greater
that
than
definition.
Yourself, right?
Everything is greater than ourselves.
Exactly right.
What makes you feel spiritually connected?
I don't know what it is. That's why I'm at a 1%. I don't know what spirituality means. I'll look it up. I'll give you a...
No, it's not a definition you can look up.
It's got to be a definition.
It's not.
It's in the...
No, baby. Spirituality is it's your own relationship.
With what?
With whatever is out there that's more.
Yeah.
Your relationship with it.
Absolutely.
So that's why it comes down to what makes you feel more spiritually connected. For some people, it's religion. For other people, it's their connection to nature. Connection to people. I mean, spirituality is about energy. It's about the energy.
Oh, is this your
you're
definition
connected
now?
to. For me.
I don't have this on my list of things to talk about. So
that doesn't mean we're skipping
might have
it.
to move on. Here.
No way! You don't get to move on just because you finally got uncomfortable with something.
I don't have an answer. This is how I define it. Something greater than you, right?
No, but you.
And if you could positively affect something greater than you, right?
No, it's not about you positively affecting something. That's not what spirituality is. Spirituality is about a connection. It's your connection to whatever makes you feel a spiritual connection.
I don't know about that answer. I don't think I have.
So 1%.
1%. I could probably double that by the end of the year.
By the end of the year, you'll understand how you feel spiritually connected.
We have the physical side of things sorted out. It sounds. I sometimes lay down and prop my feet up and close my eyes. That's my mental. That's my mental training. My meditation. I just lay there. Marisa calls it sleeping.
You haven't meditated maybe ever.
Marisa calls it taking a nap. I call it meditating. All right. And then, what is the other one? Social? You haven't socialized in a while. Spirituality we got to work on. So how did this even come up? Why did I ask you? Put that on there? It's not on my list.
It was brave of you to ask that question.
It's not on my list. And I think your numbers are probably off a little bit. Because that's a huge number. But anyhow, so yeah. What are we talking about? Social events, right? I was actually happy that I was talking to people more. That's where it came from. But anyway.
Well, you know, what shifted that for you?
What?
We're both kind of natural hermits. What shifted you seeking out that connection more?
Well, you said that I always enjoyed those conversations, but I just wouldn't have them as often because nobody wants to listen to me talk about the 1800s. If I'm fascinated about prisoners, who wants to have that conversation? It's not.
Well, you're fascinated by human nature.
American Indians.
And you're fascinated by the human's ability to persevere.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a strong...
The Native Americans I'm reading about now. The Civil War. I mean, these people, I'm reading, it's a historical fiction, but right now they're starting to second guess themselves on the northern side. I was going to say our side, because we're undefeated in civil conflicts. Now, they are told to charge, they charge. They're told to retreat, they retreat. They're told to sit idle, they sit idle. And these people are starting to second guess themselves, like, why are we doing this, right? They say jump, we say how high, right? Mm-hmm. That still goes on today. Okay?
100%.
That is incredibly relevant. So it doesn't matter what century we're in. Those lessons still apply. You have leaders making mistakes, scared to stand out. It's easier to sit idle or run away or retreat than it is to go toe to toe with an adversary that is just as strong as you.
So it comes back to survival instinct.
And the way that these individuals were living in the 1800s also is interesting to me. I don't know how much I went into this in a previous
Totally
podcast.
Deflected my question.
I'm fascinated with the 1800s. Who wants to talk about that? Who wants to talk about the Texas Rangers? Seriously.
That's not what you talk about.
Yes, I do.
When you see them.
Oh, yes, I do. They got paid. A bunch of people all over the country get paid. How do they get paid? What do they have to do? How do you think they get money?
I think
They show scalps, okay?
decreasing your mental percentage.
They show scalps, and that's how they get paid.
I know, it's gross.
Disgusting.
I don't want to have a
and
conversation
it's not that
about
long
this.
ago.
See,
okay?
I get it. I'm just sharing that you're deflecting the actual question I asked, which was, what made you seek out connecting after having not for years?
Well, I always liked it. I'm just around people more, I guess. I don't know.
Well, you didn't have to be. I mean, you'd chosen not to be even while I was for a period of time.
Well, now we have people coming over. We have some events. People are coming to the crib, to the barn. I'll chat with some people. No?
This is why you're a 1%.
I see people. I see parents at pickup for a daughter. I've chatted up if somebody's willing to give me an ear.
You'll chat with anybody I know. Like you.
Here's the deal. This is why. Okay.
Let's hear it.
I read a lot.
I'm aware.
Because I read a lot, I could find a connection with somebody. I could have a conversation.
That's still not why. No, that's why you chat.
Because I enjoy. I don't want to be somebody that is like that Debbie Downer person that was at the event you were at, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. I just wanted. You just want to talk to people, and you want people to say hello to you.
That's it. That's right. I agree with that.
So it's like,
you gotta be the change.
And I'll give somebody something ridiculous could happen. I'm not gonna share what it is, but there's some ridiculous things that I've seen and heard, and I'm like, you know what? I am still gonna go talk to this person, and I'll find a connection with them, and we could talk about gluten-free pizza crust or some crazy book that I just read. And I'm like, I'm not gonna let whatever's going on affect that, because one, I work with kids, I work with parents, I work at a school. If you want the environment to be healthy, I think you need to find common ground with people and not
100%.
Not avoid and not ostracize and not make people feel.
Not judge people.
Yeah, there you go.
You're removing judgment. That's really beautiful, baby.
And that is it.
That's a big deal.
And I'm talking about this book again. I'll talk about it every podcast.
Oh my God, please don't.
Lest innocent blood be shed. It's all about redemption. If you're a human being, you can be redeemed.
100%.
Exactly right.
Redemption comes from within. It's not about you can be redeemed.
These people use it in a way as if because one of them was, involved in the church, right? So that was their view, was a little bit more biblical, like, this Nazi guard is going to arrest my husband. I'm going to serve him a meal because he's a human being. That is why.
Right.
And because he's a human being, he could do good in this world.
There's that...
Even if he's not doing good right now, he still can do good in this world. And I will treat him with kindness.
There's that, like, old wise man's tale about the snake. And I don't remember who the man is, but basically the snake is dying and needs help. And the man says, well, if I help you, it's a poisonous snake. If I help you, will you bite? Are you going to bite me? Are you going to hurt me? And the snake says, no, I won't hurt you. Like, will you help me? Guy helps the snake. Snake bites the guy dies, right? And it goes back to, why would you help the snake? And he's like, well, because the snake is a snake and I knew who he was, but I am who I am and couldn't let something suffer. So it all comes down to, it bothers me when people talk about giving money to those in need or homeless, because I'm one of those people that we will give to. It really pulls on my soul strings to see somebody without. So it comes down to, people will say, like, well, what if they're just going to go buy drugs or alcohol or whatever with it? And I'm like, well, what if they're not? And it, like, what they do with it speaks to their character, not mine. Right?
So that's it. That's like, that also goes with the, I don't know, just that whole thing too about, something just came to mind with, like, even just with the lady that served the food, right? It was like, they're human in need, and if I'm going to be authentic to who I am going to help a human in need.
I loved that you brought being authentic to who I am, because I think a lot of us walk around really disconnected with our own authenticity.
I'm not even sure. I mean, that was another, if we want to stick with my...
Oh my God, your effing list.
My checklist here.
Where's...
Authentic. That was a big lesson this week.
That's on your list?
Yeah, health class.
Oh, I was like, authentic is not on your list.
This is what it was. And I tried to figure out a way to tell this to a group of kids. Hey, you're not always going to be accepted.
It's truth.
How does it feel?
And you shouldn't want to be.
How does it feel when you're not accepted? How do we go about overcoming this stuff? This was the question that we went with. Somebody raises their hand, very smart, and she's just like, very, not smart.
Intuitive?
No, it was just a good answer, sorry. It was a very, intuitive, it was well thought of, and it was true to who she is as a person, if you know her. She's just like, she brought up just being authentic, right? And that is the one thing, and eventually you'll find your group and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, yes, that is true. But it's when you're not authentic, right?
Oh, it's absolutely.
Which is bringing back that core values thing that we did. It was all tied into, if this is what's important to you, some of these kids had like 20 things circled, and I'm like, hey, we're going to have to whittle this down a little bit here. But, these are things that they have to be important to us. We can't just circle the things that we think our teachers, our parents, or somebody else thinks that we should have. They have to be our core values, because then you can be authentic. When you know who you are, then you should not change those for anybody. So if there's a group that wants you to change that to be accepted into that group, then you're going to be inauthentic, and then the dust always settles. Your true self will come out. Either you will say, I don't like these people anymore, or these people realize that you're not who they thought you were, and then be ostracized. So if you're authentic to who you are and you do what kind of, what moves you to act, right?
Being authentic to who you are is 100% one of the best things you can do and be for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it goes to that. I mean, I could vouch for Marisa too. I mean, that human condition thing, right, where somebody could always be redeemed, I think I would need those reminders all the time, because, you spend your whole life not doing stuff for people in need. And then, we were in Utah last year. We had a ton of leftover food, right? So the easy thing to do, what I would have done probably if I was there with friends, is we probably would have just chucked it. And we were the last ones in the room. Marisa's like, we just saw a ton of homeless people in Salt Lake City, and she's just like, why don't we just take that over there? And I'm like, all right.
I didn't say why don't we. I said we are.
Right.
We're bringing this over to the homeless.
And it's me, Marisa, and it's Emmy, right? Our little 5-year-old at the time. I think she was 5, right? She wasn't 4.
Yeah.
So we pull up there, and we loop around, and we see more than we anticipated, right?
Yeah, it was heartbreaking.
There's a lot of people. It's a little square by a church. I don't know, 40 to 60 people, all just kind of
on a block,
meandering literally a block outside of Salt Lake City, like in the city.
Oh, it was in the city. It was right in the city.
Right in the city, right in the heart of it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't even a block. It was right there.
Yes.
And anyway, I just started putting stuff out, and then maybe somebody asked like, "Can we have this?" And I was like, "Yeah." Somebody in a wheelchair like got up and just ran out. They weren't in a wheelchair for physical issues. It was just like their chair.
Yeah.
People were walking down the road. I mean, I don't know. It was a hard scene to see because they were walking in a way
really
like they had no life in them. It was like if you saw the movie that had like a zombie, it was that kind of movement. Some people didn't look like they were there, and they might not have been there. But, you know, I don't know. You do a good deed like that, 60 people show up. Maybe one of those individuals could get something, and then that one person could then offer a hand somewhere else. You know, like when I think about the spiritual side of things, I kind of think of it more that way, where if you could affect something positive in one person, maybe they could then go out and affect others. But that's something that I don't always think about. So there you go. You are the reminder.
I'm your reminder.
Yeah, Marisa gets food. I mean, she'll get food to anybody if it looks like they need a meal. I remember we were in Boston. We got some food for some guy. We just gave a sandwich and a hot coffee. That guy was actually pretty cool. He loved the idea of getting a coffee. It was cold that day, and his attitude was wonderful.
That was here at home in Hellertown.
He was playing
a bucket.
And
it was really cold out.
It was cold, and he had such a great attitude. That was good too. I put a smile on my face to even just say hello to the guy and talk to him a little bit.
I think that's actually so important. Is that piece right there? Like, I think so many of us walk by, and I don't know why this really affects me, but it really has my whole life, and Chris goes along with everything I want to do to help people. But I think that we way too often walk past people like that with like averting our eyes. And I think that like one of the best things you could do for the human soul is to acknowledge it, right? Like,
yeah, there was somebody that would recommend, hey, buy them a drink, look them in their eyes, ask them what their name is, let them know that they're human.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that prison thing too, where like they just get assigned a number. You're not a name anymore. You're just, you know, inmate number 67894, right? You know, feeling like you have a name, feeling like you're still a human, not being treated as unhuman, I think can go a long way in the way that somebody feels about themselves and life. But so that was that experience, and that was interesting. But you know, and honestly too, it's like, you know, I all of these things I talk about, right? I'm always talking about like a book I read or something, right? Probably annoys you, but I gotta tell somebody about it. Now I just tell my phone and call it a podcast. But you still gotta put the stuff into play, right? That's it. Like,
that's right.
Oh
my God,
stuff.
That's the best thing I ever heard come out of your mouth. Stephen Rowe should be excited too. I hope you're watching, Steve.
Shouldn't.
Don't you remember? I don't even. How long ago was it?
Stephen doesn't even read. I tell him to read a darn book.
Oh,
he listens to audiobooks. You're like, oh, you just gotta work. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? You can work and you could also read. Like, it's not one or the other, dude.
Can I share something that's a little vulnerable and it impacts you?
Sure. Nobody watches this, really. So
nobody watches this. For a long time, you just read the books. So to hear you...
That's your story?
To hear you... No.
I'm just kidding. I know where you're going.
To hear you acknowledge that it's not about really what you read. It's about, like, really... It's about living.
Yeah, I read the book about the lady that served the freaking Nazi guards dinner, right? They're humans. They're human beings. So they deserve to be treated like a human, all right? And I don't think I did that. I walk by. I see a guy every time I drive into Hellertown. I don't buy him stuff. Can I? Sure. Maybe I will now. But like, nobody really deserves to be living on the streets, especially up here in the
Nobody
Northeast.
does.
I mean, it is just miserable weather sometimes. So yeah, to get somebody a meal, get them a meal maybe. If somebody's worried about giving them money, get them a meal, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Get them something warm. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're worried about what they're going to do with the money, then still, get them something to drink. Get them a coffee. Make somebody's day. How about that? When was the last time you made somebody's day?
I don't know.
Hopefully today, right?
Hopefully.
I just woke up though. Just kidding.
I mean, come on. I am so tired. I did just get out of bed a little bit ago, which never happens, by the way. When did, like, you ever know me to, like, lounge in bed like that and not be sick?
Oh, man. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, seriously. Never.
Why?
Anyway,
lounging.
my share is that not just about the homeless, but, like, there's, like, I don't know who said it, but, like, basically every self-development book is out there that you could ever need. Like, there doesn't need to be another one written. You know, people write them because they're sharing their story. It's healing for them, and that story can touch someone and heal them. But if you don't take that information and do something with it, and actually, like, step into action,
this is good. We're coming full
then,
circle.
Then it's totally useless. It's useless information. Maybe it touched your heart, but you haven't shared it with anyone else.
Just remember,
you're not changing yourself. I mean, and ultimately, like, we all talk about politics, education, all these things. How do we change them? We change them by starting here, right? Like,
want to change the world, start with yourself.
That's right. If I can make the changes I want outside of me, within me, and then I touch other people's lives and give them a safe space to do the same, and now you touch one person, they touch one person, that's 2 people, becomes 4 people, becomes 8 people, becomes 16 people. Like, it,
and that statement, that
exponential
idea
growth.
Is not like something that is just kind of made up. It's like, I'm sure you could find that in a book in the Bible, probably written thousands of years ago. Gandhi said it. I think that was his quote. If you want to change the world, start with yourself.
Start with yourself. Yeah.
This idea's been around forever.
It's the truth.
So that's I think that's going to the I don't know, everything we talked about, the choice aspect of it, the human nature aspect, where you read something that happened a century or 2 ago and you're like, this is human behavior, and as human beings there's still this inclination to act in a certain way, and so you start understanding that side of things. You have the choice component. All right, we talked about it earlier. At some point in time we do have to make a choice, and it might be a difficult choice. I have these thoughts marinating in my mind. Remember the marinating thing we talked about? It could take years.
Yes.
When did I think about helping the homeless? Probably for 20 years. When did I actually do it? Last year. You know what I'm saying? You see, I don't know. It's like you got to see the human condition, I think, at the low sometimes, and not be judgmental about it. Because they're still a person.
Removing judgment, period, is just one of the most important things you could do. And it's not just for others. Like, think about how much we judge ourselves. You shared it earlier in your story that, like, you've always had a good compass on what's right and wrong, but you don't always make the
I made terrible
choice,
decisions,
right?
Awful decisions.
Right, but then it's the judgment afterwards that's actually more damaging than the action itself.
I used to hate, so, seeing my brother was a drug addict, right? And I would be so judgmental to him while I was drinking. And then I would wake up the next day and be like, a hypocrite, have these hypocritical thinking in my mind. And instead of changing it, you just, like, keep drinking. Eventually the day came where I was like, I'm not drinking anymore, But, like, and then you're like, that's not who I want to be. So you either change it or you continue to plunge in a way that is not in the right direction.
But don't judge it, because when you cast that kind of judgment on yourself, you're hurting yourself. When you cast that kind of judgment on others, you're hurting them and yourself.
But sometimes people don't get an opportunity to come out of it also. My brother, for example, his opportunities ran out. Okay? And you hope that eventually one of these times something will catch, but then you never know, because I guess life is fragile, right?
Life is fragile, but you could look at it a different way and think that Ryan's journey still blessed other people.
No, they did. And I talked about it with Wes.
So,
that's how we opened the podcast with Wes. But
and continues to.
That is why you need to treat everybody as a human being. Because that human could then, literally that next day could come out of something.
That's what, and
make a change.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't quit.
Yeah.
You can't quit on, no.
The only way to failure is quitting.
So you can quit on quitting, but that doesn't really make sense. What else you got to talk about? You're just traveling around all over the place. You got anything to talk about?
I mean, lots to talk about, but we already talked about a lot of stuff.
We are going, Marisa and I scheduled an event for Sunday, the 25th of February. And she was pretending like she was, the whole time, a little bit weird. Like, I never shared this with her. This is the first time she's hearing it. It's like, oh yeah, but I don't want to plan anything for it. I think she secretly knew in the back of her mind that she had something going on and was just going to throw me out to dry a little bit here. So basically, I'm going to...
No.
If you're listening to this...
Time out.
And you want to come over on February 25th at
That's
4
this
o'clock
Sunday, by the
p.m.
way.
This Sunday. 2 days. Come on by. And we're having a little gathering. It's health-minded people just getting together, shooting the breeze, maybe, is what some people might like to call it.
Sharing what we're doing.
Sharing and then sharing what we're doing. And why are we doing what we're doing?
Because I want to heal the world.
Marisa is a health and,
it's not about...
You're like a, what would you call yourself?
When you say health, people think physical
things. A life
things.
coach? A health coach? You help people.
I help people.
It's part of the business, you know?
I provide a safe space for people to find out where their authentic selves are and how to live in it.
And you could get a 75-minute call with Marisa if you wish to really start to explore
nice
this.
Plug.
But anyhow, so we're having an event. We're at these events. We eat. I like to eat food, so we put out some Italian meats.
I won't be here.
Some fruit, some veggies.
So
I'm hosting. It's going to be a party. Yeah. Get some of that. Sunday, it's going down. What else?
I don't know.
What else are you doing? Anything with work stuff that is not 3 related?
Anything with I mean, my large focus has been on 3 because, I guess I'll share this part. Like,
sure.
So with my coaching and consulting business, I love it. I mean, I really get to impact people's lives in a positive way. Really, actually, it's not as how I want to say it. Like, I get to create the space for people to be able to impact their own lives in a positive way, and I really, really enjoy that. But it's limited, right? There's only so many times in the day. Almost so many times. There's only so many hours in the day. There's only so much time. And I've realized that through 3, some of you guys have maybe heard about what we're doing or seen a presentation but I feel like I just get to touch so many more lives. Like I get to really impact.
All over the country, all over the world. It's kind of cool.
It is awesome. Yeah.
You got people in Missouri, California, New York, Boston, Florida, Texas, some other international people that you're chatting it up with.
Yeah.
So it is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
It's nice.
It's great.
It's a good addition to life.
Yeah. So I get to take like all the pieces of what I do one-on-one with people and scale it in a way that's authentic to me. So
there you have it. Yeah. Authenticity coming right back around it. We're bringing it full circle here. Remember, there's always a choice.
There's always a choice.
Fingers crossed. Let's see the people that are doing good and let's just give it a try one time.
We don't always get to choose our circumstance, but we get to choose how we respond to it.
What else could we wrap? What else could we tie in here to finish up? What else do we talk about?
I don't know. It went a lot of places I wasn't expecting it to go.
We gotta be our authentic self. That's why I got my notes here.
We didn't follow your notes.
1, 2, 3, 4. There's 6 things written here, and one of them is that this is episode 8. So technically, there's like 5 things here: the health class, literacy, the socializing, events, your travel. You were kind of all over the place. Connecticut, this, that, and the other.
As in,
Vegas.
Travel is crazy, and
not sleeping.
I don't know. I'm out of time for sharing.
Not sleeping.
No sleep until last night.
What else you talked about?
Crashed hard.
Yeah, it's all good. Anyway,
all good.
Time to wrap this thing up. Chris and Friends podcast. ChrisFlook.net is the website. I got my gym stuff on there. Cornerstone Fitness. I got my blog there where I put out my weekly word, and I probably write 2 articles a month right now. I was thinking about once a week. Can't keep up with the writing.
Don't do that.
Can't keep up with the writing.
I'm vetoing it.
Basically, we're at 2 a month. But it's all interconnected. It's all stuff I talk about either as I prepare for the health classes, for the podcast, or for my newsletter. Go to chrisflook.net. A pop-up comes up. It says, we have a heck of a newsletter. And you put your email in there, and then you could get my weekly word sent out every Sunday, 7:30 a.m. sharp. And I'm still begging for subscribers. Last time I begged, I'm +7 on YouTube right now. All right, we still got a long way to go. So if you go to YouTube, just subscribe to the channel. You'll get your updates, right? This is on Apple, it's on Google, it's on Stitcher, it's on Spotify. The podcast is out there. Subscribe to it. Give me a thumbs up. Write something special like, hey, this is awesome. You're the man, Chris. Stuff like that. Keep it positive. All right.
Positive. We should do, Chris and I are going to do, like, we're going to join for number one friend. Remember from that first episode?
Top friend, number one.
We're going to do it together like once every 4, once every 5.
I'm saying.
So if there's anything people want us to talk about, you should drop that somewhere. Where can they drop that?
Just comment somewhere, I guess. Comment. Send me a message.
Maybe follow us on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Crunchy Mom That Loves Science.
It's a long one. Mine is Chris Fluck. Authentic and original. There's an underscore at the end. Facebook is an option. Cornerstone Fitness on Facebook. That's my business. All right. Send a message anywhere.
Yeah.
What else could we do here?
And we could do it. We could do a post too once a week. Like, hey, what are your questions for the week?
Yeah. And if you have some guests, if you're a friend of a friend, I'll count you as a friend. Basically, what our daughter goes to a Quaker school. It is a friend's school. Everybody's friends there. All right, that's how it's worded. All right. Another thing that they do there.
That's how it should be.
Humans are humans.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I might be the teacher. You might be a classmate. Either way, you don't disrespect either because they're both humans. You don't show
There's
respect.
no hierarchy.
Yeah, you don't show respect to the top person because they're the teacher or the leader. You show respect to everybody. That's kind of like the principles that are taught.
Yeah. It's interesting you just mentioned that. I know we're getting off soon, but I just want to touch on this because you said it. One of the things we talked a lot about at the leadership conference was that leadership is not a title.
What is it? An action?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with it.
Like
100%.
you don't have to be at the top. Like people at the top aren't necessarily leaders.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. Peace. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.
Adios.